Hope, mostly known as Charmcaster, is the daughter of Spellbinder and one of the two last remaining members of her race, a magical-based human species that resided in the dimension known as Legerdemain. When she was around 9 years old, her father fought against Edwija, a Geocolone who mastered the mystic arts, becoming the most evil and powerful sorcerer in the universe. In this battle, Spellbinder sacrificed his life in order for his daughter and brother to escape to Earth. Without the guidance of her father, she was brought up by her Uncle Hex, which led her to develop a lust for power and a criminal mindset. When we first meet her, she's in her late teens and accomplishes the duties of breaking her uncle out of prison after his attempt at stealing the Arcana Book of Spells along with the luck charm. They then go on to steal the last keystone of Brazil, but are then thwarted by a Tennyson family. Charmcaster has proven to be a trickster, making the Tennysons momentarily think she was working against Hex just to get close to them and steal the keystone for her uncle, only to defy him and attempt to steal the power off for herself. She then returned, this time without her uncle, to swap bodies with Ben Tennyson with the intent of adding his alien powers onto her magical abilities. After this plan had been almost successful, but ultimately ruined, unlike most villains the Tennysons ran into, Hope grew a strong hatred for Gwen the most, as the young girl had been magically gifted and succeeded her without having a magical gene in her body. This hatred would lead her to get revenge on Gwen 5 years later by targeting her boyfriend Kevin, using him to lure Gwen into a trap in order to drain the magic from her body. This plan was yet again failed, although in an alternate timeline, she did succeed in killing Gwen, trapping Ben in a dungeon, and left Kevin under her hypnotic influence. Charmcaster and Gwen's relationship would grow when she teams up with the heroes and returns to Legerdemain to prevent a rogue Osmosian from stealing a piece of the map of Infinity, which was currently in the possession of Edwija. Learning how important it was to be part of a team, Hope quickly became friends with Gwen, putting her past feelings behind her, not wanting to kill the girl, although admitting she wouldn't mind seeing her badly hurt. She'd then go on to sacrifice herself just as her father did years ago, in order for the team to escape back to Earth, as the doors of Legerdemain began to close, locking herself inside, beginning her mission in taking down Edwija and freeing her people. She completes her task, but in doing so, she become corrupted by power, causing those she freed to turn against her, entering a civil war in order to determine who would become their new ruler, a war in which Charmcaster won. Afterwards, she would enact her plan to perform a ritual that would drain the life force of all the beings in Legerdemain in order to return her father to the mortal realm. While this was happening, Ben and his team returned to the dimension in order to save the citizens of Legerdemain from a new threat, only to realize the threat was Charmcaster herself. After draining the lives of every living being in the dimension, including Ben and friends, Spellbinder is returned to life, but is appalled by his daughter's actions. He refuses to stay as his resurrection was at the cost of so many lives, and after telling her that he loved her, he fades away as the souls of Legerdemain are returned to their bodies. After these events, Charmcaster is left alone in Legerdemain, distraught, without a clue on what to do with her life. As ruler of Legerdemain, Charmcaster quickly grew bored, until she met a young man named Michael Morningstar, also known as Darkstar. The two would grow strong feelings for one another, but although Hope wanted a relationship and company, Darkstar simply wanted power, and to destroy his enemies. She would give him not only enough power, but the ability to leave and return to Legerdemain whenever he wanted, as well as trusting him enough to inform him of her true name. Ben and his team would return to Legerdemain in order to stop Darkstar's plans, and while Kevin and Ben fought Darkstar, Gwen tries to explain to Charmcaster how deceitful Darkstar could be, but Hope doesn't understand until she realizes Michael and Gwen used to date, and that he never called her by her real name. Betrayed by this, Charmcaster teleports the heroes out of the dimension and returns Darkstar to Earth, before locking him out and returning to her life of solitude once again. A year later, Hope would return to Earth under the influence of a witch, who she had turned into a totem and placed in her magical bag. The Geoclone manages to manipulate her, giving the young woman the appearance of a crazy woman, while she communes with him as she's in her bag. His influence causes her to betray Ben after he helped her get the Alpha Rune back, and would be influenced by Darkstar, who she also turned into a totem, giving her the idea to steal the Staff of Ages, a magical object that could only be used by a master magician and currently owned by her uncle. She would then enact her plan and attend Franken University, the college where Hex is a professor in magical artifacts and antiquities, leaving his criminal life behind him. After turning her uncle into a totem, she becomes all-powerful in his library, filled with spellbooks and knowledge, but is defeated by Gwen and teleported back into Legerdemain. Continuing her rivalry with the Tennyson girl, Charmcaster lured her into the dimension and turned her into a totem as well. As all things go, this plan was foiled as well, when Gwen and Ben tricked Charmcaster into turning herself into a totem, freeing Hex, Darkstar and Ewaja, and Gwen herself from the bag. The whereabouts of Charmcaster are unknown, as she was freed from the bag by an alien known as Charles Zenith to participate in the most dangerous game in order to find out who would become the bride of Ben Tennyson. She was eliminated in the third round and teleported into the Null Void along with the other losers and fought against the Waybad before being rescued by the Plumbers. Most likely she escaped and is now currently on the loose or in Legerdemain, although she could have been zapped back into a totem within her magical bag. As mentioned numerous times in this video, Charmcaster is heavily invested in the mystical arts. She can perform telekinesis, levitate, open portals either for viewing or transport, manipulate elements of nature, and even transform herself into a dragon. With her magical bag, she can draw various magical items from it, such as explosives or any other weapon, along with clay animals like rock bats or rock monsters, which she favors. She is also able to control one's mind and alter her appearance. Hope's life story is filled with tragedy, deceit, lies, and misunderstandings. She could, and was for a moment, a valuable member of the Tennyson team, but sadly, she couldn't break away from the evil temptations and continued to relapse back into her old ways, even when she believed she was in control. Charmcaster's lust for power and tragic past confined her from moving forward with her life, something Hex blames himself for. Behind all the power, the magic, and the anger, Hope seems to just be a lonely girl who simply was just in need of some friends.